What an incredible film. Welcome to our talk back after the opening night premiere and in the North American premiere of that fabulous movie, Me Kosher. Again, I'm Holly Furfer, and I have with me our very honored guests. I'm going to run through our little Brady Bunch box on the screen. Cheryl Peleg, I hope I pronounced that right, Cheryl, writer and director of the film. Christine Gunter, producer of the film. And let me say that we are international because Cheryl is in Berlin, Christine is in Maui. We have the phenomenal actors. I mean, this film, unbelievable. Moran Rosenblatt from Tel Aviv, Louise Wolfram from Germany, Ina, Germany. Now you have to Google that. Rivka Michaeli from Tel Aviv, and John Carroll Lynch in Los Angeles. We're global. We're taking over. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you all. Okay, so first, I just want to start, Cheryl, with you. You wrote the film, directed the film. This is your brainchild. Talk about how this came to be. I mean, you threw everything in there. We're talking LGBTQ. We're talking the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Holocaust. I mean, everything that you could talk about, you put in there, and successfully. So where did this whole idea come from?
My life. It's actually, I think it's very natural with your first film to throw everything you are and you've experienced, and you kind of want to oh God, I'm in German in my head, verarbeiten. I still have to switch. Yeah, I think it's a first film thing that you use what you know, basically, and that's what I did. And
did you ever think, well, maybe this is too much, or did you ever think, oh, I went over the line, or did you just think,
all the time,
out there?
All the time. I was just waiting for someone to come and say, come on, reduce a little less, but no one did, so I kept on going.
I love it. And let me ask you, Christine, as the producer, when you get a project like this with everything in it, and we know there's hot button issues, but there's so much comedy, it's poignant. What about this project attracted you to it?
Well, the more the merrier. I really like the balagan of all those influences and all those elements. And for me personally, I think, the conflict lines were just so timely. That love overcomes division and hate, and that there's space for different points of views and opinions and ways of living, and that they're not necessarily pitted against each other, but have a right to coexistence. This is what drew me to the project. And of course, Shirel's excellent writing.
It was brilliant. Let me throw it to Moran and Louise. So the two of you, had you met before this? Because your chemistry was undeniable. It was so wonderful watching this. And what drew both of you to the project? I'll start with you, Moran.
Me. So me and Louise met for the first time in the mutual audition we did in Germany. Oh, she came.
Special surprise guest.
She's so big. So we met in the mutual audition. I went to Germany for like 24 hours to do the audition. And we did this very long audition together. And then we met like a week before shooting in rehearsals. And I have to say that we had this click really at the beginning of the rehearsals. I felt really, really comfortable with her.
And Louise, what drew you to this project when you read that script? What was it that you said, I want this part, I'm going to audition for this part?
Like the humor she put in the script. I don't know, I think Germans are not very famous for their humor, I guess, worldwide scene. So
No?
I guess it is like that. And I was really glad to have a like a funny script. I also do a lot of serious stuff and also historical stuff. And I thought, oh my God, this character is kind of close to me also in a way.
Interesting. And Rivka, I want to turn to you. Your character, just grandma, I think we all of us have experienced somebody like that in our families, especially in the Jewish world. Your character really, she's kind of almost the influence of the theme of it. She struggles so much with the past, and it really interrupts the present and the future for her. What was it about this character that drew you to this role?
I think that this person has many dimensions. It's not a stereotype, and it's not just an old grandma who survived. It's more than that. She's very open, and she accepts her granddaughter as she is. But the only reluctance when she's become very aggressive is when her best friend is from Germany, because she carries
Best friend, Rivka? Best friend?
Your best is German, and I could it. And I was very nasty to her. But I had my own secret because I was in love with an Arab man. And this is not acceptable in normal Israeli society. The match between these two people, it's hard for young people, it is hard for old people.
I think you're covering your microphone a little bit with your hand.
Look, now he's directing. I love it.
Do you hear me now better?
That's better, much better.
Better. Thank you.
But
It's
I
funny.
have not gone any further. I said all. Said it all.
Now much better. And John, I want to turn to you. So from the American perspective, what was it about that role that kind of drew you to that role? Because he seemed to me the most unbending one, the one who sort of didn't see the light at the end of the day. So and how much about what's going on, the settlers and the conflict over there, how much of that did you know about before the movie, was engaged with, or learn about during the process of filming this?
First, the script was hilarious. It made me laugh, and it was so ambitious in its comedy. It was driving straight towards things that normally aren't handled by humor, and also it felt, as comedies like this, brave comedies like this do, they have an opportunity for change that drama simply does not have. To me, sometimes experiencing drama reinforces feelings but doesn't change them. And comedy has the opportunity to fully integrate the humanity of each of the individual players, each of the individual characters, in a way that drama often doesn't. And this script was ambitious in that way, and I loved that about it. As far as the settlement issues are concerned, and I can't speak for an American perspective because, let's face it, there are several. But from my own perspective, I was aware of the difficulties with the settlements and the continued erosion of Palestinian land as Israel makes decisions around that. And what I found interesting in coming to the material was looking on a bunch of YouTube things that were sent to me and that I searched out around fantastically hilarious, terrifying men who drive around on ATVs with sidearms and accents that you would hear 5 miles outside of Atlanta. And they're talking about how important they are to the peace and security of Israel, which is awful and hilarious to me. It was just so funny watching them. I mean, I know they're completely serious about it, and I don't question their desires, but for me, I just could not stop laughing at these people and to be able to embrace that as an ethos, and to take it seriously as a character, and for that seriousness to be funny made sense to me.
I love that. And Cheryl, what about, I mean, obviously you used a lot of humor in this. Talk about why it was so important and how you balance that with the seriousness of the topics that you're talking about.
Well, I don't think you can actually separate these two. They just go hand in hand. That's how I see the world in a way, and I just let myself put it out there the way I see it. The thing is that these are topics that are not only on TV or in the books. They have an influence in our day-to-day lives. And that was at the center of this, trying to figure out how to touch topics that are usually considered taboo, but somehow are very much alive for us.
And one of the things that really struck me in the movie, when you talk about humor with seriousness, Louise, your character at the museum, when you talk with Moran's character and you're outside and you talk about what it's like to be a German, when we're talking about that whole issue of the Holocaust. And I mean, that really struck me because it really opened my eyes that the whole world is able to approach that topic through a certain lens, but many German people cannot. Is that something that touched you, that you personally have experienced? And was that sort of eye-opening to you as well?
Totally. The moment I read this line, I thought for the first time, that's true. Like I never had it that clear in my mind. And I was really moved by this line in a way. And I was, while playing it, I just played it as me as I am, actually, like in this moment. And it was also like kind of a relief in this moment to speak out loud this kind of thought, which I feel, but I haven't thought before.
Interesting. And I'm curious with the other actors, did you feel the same thing too? I mean, just because you weren't in the scene, but I would love, Rivka, John, your perspectives as well. Moran, from that topic as well, sort of those eye-opening aha moments.
I'm kind of seeing what Louise said now, that you realized the guilt of German according to what has happened, and the guilt that even that she didn't do anything. When John just talked about the settlers, I realized that even though I'm not a settler, of course, and I'm on the left side of the political map, I still felt the guilt of the Israeli people. So I really understand what Louise said now.
Yeah, somehow it's a very personal topic, but at the end it's also it's a national thing, because I am an Israeli, even though I live in Berlin. I will always be an Israeli. And even when you're in Germany, and if you go out of Germany and you're German, you're still German in a way. And we take this role with us wherever we go.
You see, I was born in Israel, and so were my parents. And even from my mother's side, I'm 9th generation in Israel, in Palestine, in Israel. And I can tell you that only 5 or more years ago, I decided to buy German products. Before then, I never bought a German product. I was reluctant of everything that was German. And it's in my blood. I think I was educated, and I saw survivors. I saw children in my class. They were orphans, and they were not so accepted well in Israel when they first came to Israel. I can tell you, the refugees that survived. But then it took me time to understand that there is another generation, and this new generation doesn't have to carry this guilt. And if we hope that it will never happen again, we should look to the future. I'm also, I would say, reluctant when I see what Israel is the regime now, we hope it will change, like what happened to Trump. We always compare both Bibi and Trump, and maybe it will change. I don't know, not many chances, because ours is much cleverer. He's clever, isn't he? He's not as your Trump before. But I'm talking about every Israeli has some guilt according to our situation, being here in a part of this Middle East, and being so different from our neighbors. I think this we carry, and this is when I'm in love with an Arab a doctor, and I always have jokes about it between me and him, and still it is not very comfortable. Still.
John, you wanted to say something?
I was in Germany for a film festival in Hamburg, and I was walking around a park, and there was a war memorial, and it started with a World War I memorial, and then it was a World War II memorial about 10 years after the war, and then there was another World War II memorial right next to it, which was a shattered swastika, and in each of them was a kind of digestion and consideration of the circumstances of each of those individual experiences and how they're changing over time as they're confronted and meditated on. And we are, obviously the United States and our systemic racism is something that is denied by many people and is fought over by many people, and literally to some degree was the cause of the attack on the Capitol and in those circumstances, we're not coming to terms with that. We're not digesting that. We're not looking at it. We're either ignoring it or screaming about it, and that's the two sides that we have. In this film, the attempt to point at the screaming and to see the cross currents of intolerance, like, I'm perfectly fine that my daughter is marrying a German. That's not a problem. I'm perfectly fine that my daughter is marrying a woman. That's not a problem. But when it comes to the Arabs, hold on. Like it's like ludicrous. The ludicrousness of arbitrarily assigning humanity to one group or another based on one's own perception is what the movie is pointing at in such a strong way. And it's funny. It's a silly thing to do. And I appreciate the bravery of saying, this is just silly. We don't have time for this. We simply don't have time for it. We've got more important things to worry about. And yet we're not doing that. And we continue to fight over things that we shouldn't be fighting over anymore. It's ludicrous, but it's important to tell the truth before there's reconciliation.
Right, and to that point, Sherelle, you the underlying theme to me was that how the past affects the present and the future, right? And as John says, you see it through your own lens. So some people have issues with, you mentioned the Holocaust or the settlers, or everything seems to be intertwined. So talk a little bit about how you sort of based all of that on, we have to remember the past, but we have to get beyond it if we want to live into the future.
Yeah, I felt that in my private life, and I felt that while making this film, that like whenever you try to do something that is based in looking into the future, there is something, this like very heavy anchor pulling you down. And there's this kind of force to it that there is no way to deal with, actually, because no matter, and I feel it till today, my wife is German and we're together for over 11 years now, and she will always be the German. It will never change, and in specific contexts. And I just ask myself, how can we release ourselves from that? How is reality? How is it possible for us to find a way to just be human beings when we communicate with each other? And is it, if at all possible, in such a loaded situation where everything collides? And I feel that for me, it's very present, this issue. I'm sure that a lot of Americans can relate to it these days, that this kind of conflict, when it meets you at the dinner table with the people closest to you, where you find yourself not agreeing about monumental issues like religion, politics, and how to get all of that mess to actually function as a family, while disagreeing. And that was the center of it for me, to find a way to continue to disagree. I don't want to change anyone's opinion. I don't care. I look at them as human beings, and I want to be treated the same. If I'm gay, Arab, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just about being human beings, like John said before. And I found it, for me, the only way to look at it was with putting the humor in its center and showing how basically impossible it is.
Did you want to say something, Moran?
Yeah, I thought when you said, when you talked about leaving the past behind, with all this serious subjects, the Holocaust and the Middle East problems, also putting the past behind is like in small things in a relationship, like the exes. Like when I have so many exes and the girlfriend needs to just, okay, be okay with it. It's really difficult to put the past behind, and it's really amazing if you succeed, of course.
I can say something.
Yes, please.
We are on the eve of the International Memorial Day of the Holocaust. Tomorrow is the International Memorial Day of Holocaust. So I read a lot. I hear music that was written and performed in Theresienstadt by a woman composer that was sent then to Auschwitz and was terminated there. She and her son and her husband. And I can't get over it, like, let's not think about the past, because the past was there and it always will be with us. I think what we have to look forward is not to repeat these sorts of crime, never, and not be closer to these sorts of crime and atmosphere that brought people to do such unbelievable, unhuman deeds as they did. But still, as an Israeli, I will always remember what happened in the Holocaust. I can't get over it.
Not getting over it is, I don't know why anybody would assume that's a good thing, of getting over something like that. It seems to me it has to be remembered and continued on, but to boundary things as if they're in, as they're stuck in amber and nothing can change. We shot in the old city of Jerusalem, and there's the Temple Mount in the background of one of the shots, and that's a perfect tribute of the ongoing conversation around a series of historical events that are still living out today, several thousand years or several hundred years later, depending on which one you want to choose. And when I was at an event called the Blue Card fundraiser, and the Blue Card is a group of New Yorkers who raise money for Holocaust survivors in the United States. I imagine mostly in the United States, and it's a generous organization. They give 100% of the funds. It's all volunteer. A friend of mine was the president emeritus, so we went and supported her as she got this award. And a woman got up, and it was right after Trump was elected, and this woman got up and started talking about the fact that Israel is entitled to Sumerian Judea, and I was my head popped off. I was like, how far are we going to go back now? Like, you're talking about Sumerian Judea now. Really, we're going. That's a long time ago.
That's how Israelis call it till today.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
And the reason why they do that is because they're reaching backwards. Like, it's an interestingly terrifying thing to justify our present behavior by something that happened several thousand years ago, as if it's extant now, and it happens all the time. At the same time we were shooting that scene with the Temple Mount, these young PAs were around trying to lock up the set, and the Orthodox community just simply ignored them. They would just walk straight through this lockup because they were entitled to be there, and these young people weren't. In their opinion, it seemed to me, from my outside perspective, I was like, wow, that's really super rude. Like, these kids are just trying to, like, they're making, I don't know what they're making. They're probably volunteers, and they're just trying to get a shot. We're just trying to make a movie. Could you wait 2 minutes? Would 2 minutes be too long? And apparently it was.
No,
so
you say that it's rude, but I felt like I was stressed, and I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could, because I felt it's like the one thing that we do that is going to go wrong here, and the entire situation is going to go south, because there was something so loaded in the air with this group of men, that just like had to be in the middle of the frame. And another thing is, we had as props, we had a huge cross. It didn't make it into the film in the end, but there was a huge cross on set, like really a huge wooden cross carried by pilgrims. So yeah, and I know that like a cross, even in Jerusalem, it's Jerusalem, people. It's not only ours, that was a big no-no, and we were carrying it at the wrong side of in the wrong side of the city, in the wrong quarter, and it never would have occurred to me, but like I just saw them looking at this cross, and I said, okay, we really have to get out of here, because that's not looking good.
These histories can't be ignored. They can't just be walked away from. They're alive in us right now. The question I think the movie's trying to ask is, how do we move forward with them? How do we carry those various crosses with compassion and with and new ones? Because even though gay people have been with us always, this outward expression where people are in love and want to be in love in public is new for us, generally. Like in my lifetime, I went, this is in Atlanta. First time I was in Atlanta, I walked, what's the big park in Atlanta?
Centennial Olympic Park or Piedmont Park, one of the two.
The Piedmont, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was walking in Piedmont Park, and when I was 20 years old, I jumped forward to a couple of years ago when I was working in Atlanta, and there were mixed race, same-sex couples walking hand in hand, kissing in that park. In my lifetime, that's how much it's changed, and rightly so. But these are new things for a lot of people who are intolerant towards them, and we can't ignore their intolerance. At the same time, we can't bow to it. I don't know what to do about it, but that's what's so great about the movie is it questions these things. It doesn't answer them.
Right, exactly. I think it's also, sorry for interrupting. I think it's really important for me to say that, like, at any point, there was never an attempt to say that someone is right or wrong or to force my opinion on anything. It was just, it's an attempt to show the absurdity of things.
But in the end, there is a wedding, and everybody is so happy, but it ends with a big quarrel, and I think it was not done. By mistake, the quarrel, it was meant to be.
Exactly. Right. There's no happy end in the Middle East, yeah.
But that's how it, but it begs the question, and much to what John was saying is that, and what Rivka said, we have the past, and the past is so important to understand and keep with us in present and future, but not to guide us so much because we will become stalled. So how do you keep the past with you, but break away from the constraints that it has?
Keep questioning it. I think that the past is it isn't, but it should be as alive and debatable as the present and the future. And I think that's an issue that we can't seem to solve. And John was talking before about being in Germany and looking at different memorials, and that's an amazing thing. And Germans are very good at remembering, but also in Germany, it stagnated in a way. And then we have, this way of like this, but this is how we remember. So yeah, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, because if we stop asking questions, so we're not respecting the past, because then it just stays in the past. So for me, it's and if it's in regarding to the German issue, Holocaust, whatever it is, we just need to talk about it. We just need to be able to talk about things the way they are, which seems to be the hardest thing to do these days, actually.
And Louise, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just had the feeling right now we discussing like that. That is really, there was some point I enjoyed during the shootings a lot, like this really mixed people from all over the world with their different perspectives and experiences in their lives. And I mean, we probably could continue talking about all this stuff for hours and hours, because we all have our heritage and our origin and stuff. And it was, for me, it was really something special to work in this, like in an international context like this. And
we had very good, warm relations, didn't we? All of us. We had very warm.
We did.
In us. We were really a group, a family group.
If only you could be the microcosm to what would happen in the world, that would be perfect. I do want to, Moran, I do have a question for you. As a woman living in Israel, we talk about same-sex marriage, and in Israel, it's not legal yet, but 79% of the population wants and says it should be. They recognize same-sex marriage from outside. So how important was it for you to do this film there? And Luis, please, jump in as well. But for you personally, and, to be able to do this film and the message that it sends.
I think in Israel, people, like you said, the majority are really, really accepting the LGBT community. Some more, some less. Of course, the lesbian and homosexuals are in a better position now than trans and like everywhere, I think. Of course, it's crazy that we can't get married. I think the Rabbanut in Israel, the group that's responsible for marriage in Israel, is very religious, and they control it since ever. And many people start to stop get married in the Rabbanut and start to get married in more modern way. And I think this is what's happening. The young people get married not in the religious way, and we started to maybe change things, but start to get political is not possible, and I'm so don't have the power to get in the whole the really strict religious people have this this card that they own. And they decide many things here because they have many people there, and I don't want to get into the hardcore of politics, but the majority of Israel are really, really cool, especially in Tel Aviv. So yes, it's only a law, and yeah.
We don't have civil marriage, I think in Israel, it's the only country that a Jew can't marry who he wants. Jewish people are not allowed to marry as they want. It's the only country in the world.
But Rivka, so in 1992, you did a movie, an incredible groundbreaking movie, Amazing Grace, and that addressed, the LGBTQ community way back then, and even the AIDS problem way back then. How have you?
The director of the film died from AIDS.
Right, shortly after the film. But how have you then, as an actress and, living in Israel, how have you seen things change? I mean, it's not, you have seen some progress.
Of course, it changed completely. I think nobody has to hide, unless they come from very Orthodox families, then they make them marry, and they think that will heal them, as they say. And then you have tragics all over with families that the father is gay and he wants to separate, and they wouldn't accept it, neither nor his parents nor the rabbis, and he feels and there are so many cases like this. But in the we are free people, most of us, and not belonging to the Orthodox parts of Israel. You can be as you want, and it's very acceptable.
As gay as you want.
Yeah, when I never came out, I was always very gay. But at one point, my grandmother figured it out, and she wasn't really okay with it. But I figured that things changed. The ambience changed in Israel when she started comparing. Things like she would call me and say, "Do you know that Isabel's granddaughter got her sperm in Denmark? Why didn't you get your sperm in Denmark?" And then I was like, okay, things are developing.
And Louisa, Christine, and even Cheryl, talk about it from the German perspective, living in another, in a country, because even in the US, as progressive as we are, Europeans, I think, are very far, forward. They're very progressive compared to a lot of what we have in the United States, and definitely, I believe, in Israel.
The gay parades in Israel are, it's worldwide famous. And the people come all over to Israel to celebrate the gay parade.
Yeah.
Well, about Germany. Yeah. About Germany, I think we all have our share of crazy. Of course, Berlin is a very, very liberal city, and in that regard, probably the vibe is as good as in Tel Aviv, but we also, of course, have super conservative forces and polarized forces who would love to turn back the clock, and who would love to go back to an age where we all know our place, women and other religions and queer people. And it's a constant struggle, and it's a struggle in the here and now. And I think we all have to stay vocal and on our toes to see how those forces globally in all societies develop. And if you look back to the beginnings, to the Weimar Republic and to the 20s in Germany, and to Magnus Hirschfeld and to all those people, it was so liberal, like gender expressions and the research in gender. It had its highlight in the 20s, and then there was this massive, like monstrous pullback in liberal and civil rights, and of course the monstrosities that happened in its wake. So I think there is never a time to be to just let it go. I think we all have to watch out what's going on and stay on top of it, and be in discourse with people, and not hide, and not just
You hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, it's totally right what you describe, and it's so this is the political issue and stuff, but like what just came up in my mind, it's very important also to build up a new viewing habit for the people, right? That you see in a cinema two women constantly kissing, and in the end, maybe before you thought, what? I've never seen that in my private life because I don't have friends or something. But then you go out and you leave the cinema and you think, yeah, of course they were kissing, just like two people kissing. So what the fuck? And I had friend of a friend was in the cinema, and she really described it afterwards. She thought, wow, I never thought about it, but now I think maybe I'm gay because I saw that. I think I missed that step in my puberty, and that's a nice effect of what cinema or what a movie can do, like what the force of movies and of pictures. Because we have so many pictures we all consume every day and every minute, and so the pictures we produced for this 90 minutes, I'm really proud of it, to be a part of it.
And also,
go ahead, Christine. Sorry.
Thank you. And also, going back to what attracted me to Shirai's script, one of the points was that it doesn't pathologize the queerness. It doesn't pathologize being lesbian, and that was very important to me. This is the one thing that is not a problem in this film, that those women are in love with each other and live this love, and and I thought that's how I wanna look at things. It is not a pathology, and I was there was a time and place, and there still, of course, is a time and place for pictures that deal with coming out and the issues of coming out and the reaction of the family and all of that. But I wanted to produce a film where this is not the issue, but everything else can be the issue.
I think we all want to live a little in a world where this is just a given, you know? It's not something you write in the byline even. It's just the way it is.
And I do think you got that.
One other thing about the movie like that. Yes, the one thing that everybody agrees on, regardless of their other problems, is that these two women should be together. Everybody agrees on that. But there's also the structure of the film itself, which is traditional. It's a traditional romantic comedy. It is girl meets girl, girl falls in love with girl, they have a problem, they almost break up. And then they have that great scene at the end where they rush towards each other knowing they're their true loves. That's a really standard romantic comedy structure. And it's applied to a gay relationship, and it works exactly the same way. So
that is the reason why it had to be exactly.
Exactly. And that's why that's one of the reasons why I love the movie, is it's really delightfully conventional in its structure.
Because the word conventional for gays is something that we never hear, and I was like, yes, I want to be conventional. For me, it's like
even this beautiful casting, these performances are wonderful, but they're also a lovely comedic Mutt and Jeff. There's one of them that's tall and one of them that's not, and one of them that's light and one of them that's dark, and they have different points of view. You're not tall, Moran. You're gorgeous. And that's what was so great about it. Their humor, the physical comedy of them together, of the things they did, all of those things are standard. They're standard routine comedic structures, and they're applied without any comment. It goes beyond, because look, man, we've been watching these movies since, it happened one night. These are old forms. Yeah. They're 100 years old, and they're being applied to this relationship, and it doesn't change the form at all. And that's really important. It goes beyond simply showing it. It's literally applying a standard thing, a standard story. And also, it works.
And I want to add the casting, because I do think it's brilliant, because everybody worked together. I mean, like I said in the very beginning, Moran and Luis, your chemistry was undeniable. And, that's what we look for in a rom-com, right? Or any romantic movie. And so, Sherelle, how important was it for you to find, and did you do it? And Christine, did you have a part? The exact right people. I mean, the woman who plays the mom, who plays your wife, John, she just was lights out. Like every time she came on the screen, I think I leaned in like 5 feet, because she just draws you in. The casting was brilliant.
Yes, it is. I have to say, I did it hand in hand with Christina, and it was a lot of fun, because I always knew that when I say, okay, this is the one, she's going to say, you're right. And it worked like that the entire time. And it was wonderful to see, you know, this like, and I had this moment with each and every one of them. For me, it was clear when we started casting, there was never a debate. I said, the grandmother is Rivka Michaeli. Now get me Rivka Michaeli. That was the only thing I knew starting this. And thankfully she did. And I was so thankful that it worked out.
Now I'm sorry, Shirel, I'm sorry that you didn't audition me because I would go to Berlin.
I'll have you here anytime, Rivka.
So I do have to ask you about something in the movie, the band as far as the film goes throughout, and it was brilliantly used as a subliminal sort of, here's where we are in this, but talk about why that was important to you.
You know what? I can say so many things about it. The honest to God truth is, I don't know. It just had to be like that. I felt that it had to be like this because, in a way, because just technically, because there are so many issues and the plot keeps on going, and there is a lot of verbal diarrhea. You needed a little break. And that was one reason where I felt that I needed this kind of break. But I wanted to stay in the comedy and I wanted to push it a bit further and be a bit more absurd in it. Because on the one hand, I really wanted to be a very straight rom-com. But I needed some kind of quirkiness, and these moments that were, for me, are very, very much Israeli, that in the midst of this chaos, when it comes to weddings, you always have this, yeh beseder, you say in Hebrew, this like, it'll be fine, you know? And weddings are at the center of that, this feeling of no matter what happens, there's gonna be a wedding and it's gonna be happy and we're gonna be joyful together. And I think that's the reason why I really needed to have this band there. Yeah.
The band also gives a level of poetic atmosphere to the film. When it's there, it becomes more poetic, and it's nice that it's not straightforward all the time.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, but I want to throw a couple more quick questions. Moran, let me ask you, what do you want people most to walk away after seeing this film with?
Fun. Yeah, I think fun, some laughs, some sexy moments. I agree. I'm talking about a lot about the non-issue of the lesbian couple. I think this is the between comedy and drama. It's a lot more comedy, but I want them to love every character in the movie. That they really in the present, like John said, really would have hate if it was a drama. They will hate them, but now everybody will love them because the flaws are really outside, and we have the non-realistic ending that things are getting better. But no, I really think in life also things are getting better. No, every year is better.
Hopefully,
especially 2020,
the year we've had.
Fingers crossed.
And let me throw the same question to you, Louise, because, you know, as the counterpart to Moran, what do you want people to leave feeling, thinking, believing?
when you just asked the question, I just thought love. I don't know. It's all in everything, and we just feel good because of it. And I don't know, love yourself, love the others, love to be alive. Like, it's a little big answer concerning, but yeah, it's my answer. Yeah, it's true.
I'm going to throw it to you, Rivka. Same question.
I would like the people to say, the audience, it has to be continued. It's only part 1, and Shirel has 2.
I think
very good.
I have the first scene already for the sequel.
Okay.
First scene, seriously?
well, there seriously, Sherelle, will there be a sequel?
I don't think so. Well, my life is in a way a sequel, but
And John, I want to throw that question to you too, as well as Christine and Sherelle. What is it that you want people to walk away feeling, thinking, believing?
For me, the humor, the joy of. I hope they walk away with the same amount of joy we had making the film. It was a joyful experience. It was a wonderfully integrated experience. It was challenging and fun, and I hope that's the way people walk away from it. And I would say the only other thing that occurred to me when Louise was talking was, people think that hate is the opposite of love, and it suddenly occurred to me that it's fear. People are fearful, and that's why love has. That's why at the end of the movie we have the fight. It's not over hate; it's over fear.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a much wiser way of looking at the problem.
Absolutely. How long did it take to film the movie?
Not long
27 shooting. 27 shooting days in total.
Wow. Unbelievable. All right, Christine, to you, what do you want and hope people walk away with?
Well, so many brilliant things have been said and true things, but for me, I'd say that conflict can be conducted in kindness. We don't have to share opinions or lifestyles or point of views, but and they can be polarized in a way, but there's a dignity to a conflict, and I hope that this film can have the audience walk away with the feeling that they can go into conflict with each other, but do it with kindness.
And Sherelle, you get the last word. What do
I have to
you
agree
hope?
with Christine on that. I really do, because also at the end of the film, Moran's character said that it's a beautiful chaos, and I think that we should learn how to enjoy the fact that it is chaotic, but there is beauty in that, in disagreeing, and as long as we talk to each other, everything is fine.
I love that. Well, all of you, thank you so much. You have given us more than you even know, from the writing, the producing, the acting, all of it. I mean, this is a film that I think will stay with us forever. And congratulations on your North American premiere of Kiss Me Kosher at the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival.
Thank you.
I know this is going to be like wildfire, and I think you're going to have to do a sequel. I am just saying. Thank you all. Be well and be safe.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.